Okay. So as we have tackled in our first meeting, so financial modeling is the use of the quantitative models in coming up with the budgets and also the forecast, okay, or forecast for the perhaps next 5 years or the next 10 years. So um, being being accountants, of course, we always find ourselves doing the different financial models or doing the budgets, the financial forecast and planning. So it is a must that we understand the concepts behind the budgeting. So the first subtopic we're going to discuss is the relationship among the planning, the budgeting, and the performance evaluation. So in all organizations, whether it's a profitable organization or a non-profit organization, so big organizations or small organizations, formal organizations, and even informal organizations. So budgeting is already a part of the process or part of the management. So sa may relasyon or what is the connection between the planning, budgeting, and performance evaluation? So number one, so the management develops the plan. So it may be a strategic plan, a tactical plan, or even a short-term plan. So those plans consist of goals, objectives, and a proposed plan of action for the future. So the management develops a plan first, so such as the goals, the objectives, and their proposed plan of action for the future. However, as we know, to achieve those goals and objectives, so we need resources, okay? Specifically, financial resources to be able to do all those or to achieve all those things, okay? So that is why, second, the plan developed by management leads to the formulation of the annual profit plan. So that is why every year, the management needs to come up with a profit plan so that they can really achieve those mentioned in number one. So the goals, objectives, and the proposed plan of action. So the annual profit plan is also called the budget. In other terms, it is called the master budget. Okay, so or simply the annual budget. So third, budgets can lead to changes in plans and strategies. So we have so many goals, we have objectives, but the problem is with our resources currently, so kaya ba nato na siya abot? Okay? Or if we have series of activities for the entire year, can our resources really uh, help us achieve those activities or can really finance those activities? So the budgets, so aside from developing the plan, the budgets can lead to changes in plans and strategies. So because of the limited resources, that's why we need to revise some of our plans and strategies. Number four, so the organization carries out its plans to achieve its goals. So the document that the organization relies upon, its operating plan is called the master budget. So in an organization, so we have several departments. So all of those naa sila budget. So of course, because they have a series of activities for the entire year. So for example, in the marketing, so the salaries for the salesperson or perhaps for the promotion, advertising, for the HR. So we have the budgets for the training, for the orientation of the new employees and seminars. Okay. And for example, for IT department, so they need to purchase new computers perhaps or new software. So it must be incorporated in the master budget as to how much are we going to need so that we can uh, implement those things or implement those activities. Now, at the end of the year, so the budget sets the budget also used as a performance evaluation. So the actual results or the actual expenses or the actual income is compared with the budgeted, okay? Or with the budget niya sales or budget niya expenses. So that is why we have what we call the variance analysis. So understanding the reason behind why there is a variance or why there is a difference between the actual results and the budgeted results. So number six, so when we analyze the variance, okay, and we understood the reason why there is a difference, we can use those variance reports or variance analysis to revise our prior plans and goals and to formulate new plans, perhaps changes in operations or revisions to the annual profit plan or the budget. So kato atong nakita sa atong variance analysis. So if we have understood the reason of those differences, then we can use those knowledge in revising our prior plans and ultimately to the revision of the budget. Number seven is if there's a change conditions during the year, so so those changes will be used in the planning for the next period. So for example, we have the pandemic, the COVID-19. So no management, I think, has incorporated in their plan the the COVID-19 niya effects. Okay? So wala na nila na foresee. Okay? So perhaps that's why a lot of businesses are closed. Okay? So kaya wala sila they don't have enough money or they don't have a contingency plan on how to deal with the COVID-19 effects. So because of this kani nga panghitabo, this will be used by the management in the coming years or perhaps the next year to come up with a contingency fund, okay, or emergency fund in case a pandemic will happen. Or what would be their setup, the work setup. Okay, so for example, they will perhaps mag-implement na sila work from home. So what are the necessary tools or necessary nga mga system to be able to implement the work from home setup. So what are the advantages of budgets? So number one, it promotes coordination and communication among organization units and activities. So most of the time we are working, of course, ang ato rang makaila is katurag yung mga tao nga sige na tumakitaan. Like for example, sa office or in our department. Okay, so for example, in the accountancy program, so uh, I usually do not meet other teachers only in the accountancy. So there is a lack of kumbaga communication among the different departments or organization units. But with the budgeting, so we can increase those coordination. Okay, so and work as one institution. So it promotes coordination and communication among organization units and activities. Second, the budget can also be used for measuring performance. So it could be in the form of uh, uh, kumbaga retention sa trabaho or perhaps promotion or perhaps a reason to provide bonus for the managers. So for example, they are targeting only 5% the next year tapos nahimong 20% the coming year. So the management can decide whether to give promotion or perhaps a bonus to our employees and management. Third is to provide motivation for managers and employees to achieve the company's plans. So the budget set inspires our managers to work hard. Okay, pag naatay goal, 'di ba, mas motivated ta and then focus ang atong attention, ang atong trabaho towards that goal. So for example, if your focus is to graduate, okay, so all your efforts, all your attention will be directed towards that goal. Okay? So perhaps later, pag nagtrabaho na mo, and then you want to achieve something, you want to own a car, a house, or whatever, so you are more motivated to work, okay, and you are more motivated uh, to make sure that you will achieve that. So perhaps through saving or investing. So as long as your work is focused or your attention is focused, you are more motivated, especially that you have plans and goals. Number four is to promote the efficient allocation of organizational resources. So just like individuals, our organization also have unlimited wants and needs. Okay, so they do have unlimited wants and needs, but um, the budget may somehow theoretically limit those goals and wants. Okay, so if we have goals mong good, so especially if we prioritize our goals, so especially kato mga goals nga mas makasatisfy compared sa katong goals nga dili makasatisfy, dili kayo makasatisfy. So it gives us a sense of fulfillment, a sense of achievement, kumbaga. Okay, so if we allocate our resources to the goals of the organic or to the goals that are more important than us, more important than the others. Because namagyud tay mga wants and needs nga mas makasatisfy sa ato. Okay? There are also wants and needs nga dili kaayo. So we need to allocate our resources first to the wants and needs that will satisfy us more. And for the organization, that is the perhaps the achievement of their vision and mission. Number five, so it provide a means for controlling operation. So mag-uban yun na si planning o si control. So ang planning, siya ang maghatag sa guideline or sa framework on how to do things. Controlling is the checking or the inspection whether those plans have uh, achieved or those plans have been implemented. And then analyzing why those plans not nganong na uban plans nga wa na-achieve na plans nga na-achieve. So that mo na po na gamiton niya knowledge or data or information in the succeeding years. So they will learn a lot from their koan, from planning and controlling. Number six is the providing a means to check on progress toward the organization's goals. So aside from the controlling, so the planning is used to measure whether how far are we from our dreams or how far are the organization from achieving their goals. So those are the advantages. So first, you have the coordination and communication. Second, it is a framework for measuring performance. Third is it provides motivation, both for managers and employees. Number four is to promote the efficient allocation of resources. So dili mag-waste of resources. Number five is to provide a means for controlling operations. And lastly is to have a means to check the progress towards the attainment of the organization's goals. So time frames for budgets. So a profit plan is generally prepared for a set period of time. So commonly, nagahimo og budget annually or for what good for 1 year, and it can be subdivided into months or possibly quarters. So budgets can also be prepared on a continuous basis. So at times the budget covers a set number of months, quarters, or years in the future. So each month or quarter, the month or quarter just completed is dropped and a new monthly or quarterly is added to the end of the budget. So for example, January to December, nahuman na ang January, so mag-start na magkuha na pud ang budget continuous gyapon, that's February, pero i-add nimo ang budget for the next year. So let's say kung December kataman atong una nimo gihimo, you will add January for the next year. So the new profit plan would be February to January, February, for example, February 2021 ta karon. So your budget is taman sa January 31, 2022. Now, pag mahuman na pud ang February, so March na, so mag-start ka pud imong budget from March 1 until February 28, 2022. So ang nahitabo, you just drop the first month or perhaps first quarter, and then you add the next month or the next quarter. So ang tawag na budgeting is called a rolling budget or a continuous budget. So there are three ways or three methods of developing the budgets. So the first is called the participative budget, so or also known as the bottom-up budgeting. So ang budget will start or all the data will start from the people at the of course at the bottom or the lower level nga employees. So katong mga direct sa customer service or sa manufacturing. So all the people affected by the budget are involved in the budget development process. So everyone participates in the budget development, even the lower level employees. So this type of budget development involves the negotiation between the lower level managers and senior managers. So the budget starts from the bottom until to the top management. Second type of budget is called the authoritative budget. So authoritative budget is the opposite of the participative because sa authoritative, the budget is developed from top management to be implemented by the lower level managers and employees. So walay say ang employees ug ang mga lower level managers. So it is all developed or created by the top management. So it is the senior management that prepares all the budgets for every segment or all the departments in the organizations. And these budgets are imposed upon the lower level managers and employees. Okay, so the last type of the budget or developing budget is called the consultative. So it is a hybrid between the participative budget and authoritative budget. So a consultative budget is a combination of authoritative and participative budget development methods. So ang mahitabo sa consultative budget, the senior management asks for input from the lower level managers. So they will ask from input from all the lower level managers, but develops the budget with no joint decision making or negotiation involved. So at the end of the budgeting process, so si top management lang ang mo decide whether uh, katong input ba gamiton ba to siya or they will uh, go for a higher amount or lower amount based sa gihatag nga input from the lower level managers. So still the final decision rests with the senior management, So kuhaan lag input ang mga lower level managers, but in essence, si top management lang gihapon ang mag-create. So of course, all those three different types of development, budget development methods have their own benefits and limitations. So kada isa sa ila naa ginay pros and cons. So let's talk first about the participative budget development. So benefits. So number one, a participative budget is a good communication device. So remember, you are going to ask the different people from the organization. So therefore, there is uh, a communication between the lower level managers and employees and the top management. So the process of preparing the budget participative gives the senior managers a better grasp of the problems their employees face. So of course, if you communicate with your employees, so you will understand more about the problems that they face each day. So the employees' knowledge is more specialized, and they have the hands-on experience of running the business on a day-to-day basis. So remember, your lower level employees are the ones attending to the needs of the customers or the clients. So they know better what problems will occur, or what are the usual problems that occur, and perhaps they have a solution already or a strategy on how to deal with those problems, or perhaps they can suggest something. So at the same time, the employees gain a better understanding of the problems experienced by the top management. So of course, the employees will understand. So especially kung very transparent ang top management as to pilay profit sa organization or sa business. So they would understand why dili sila pwede magtaas og salary, or why there is uh, why they cannot increase the salary, or why they cannot, or why they are cutting costs. So kanang walay mga, kung sa una dagay mga team building activities, kanang karon wala. So the employees will understand better if there's a communication from the top management. So a good communication will promote a harmonious nga relationship towards inside the organization. Second, a participative budget is more likely to gain employee commitment to fulfill budgetary goals. So since they are the ones giving the input, okay, or sila agad ang naghimo sa budget, then it is more likely that the employee will commit to those budget and fulfill the budgetary goals. So people are more willing to devote the extra effort to attain goals if they perceive it as their own goals. So if they think that they are the ones creating, or kumbaga gi-own nila to nga goals, then they are more willing to devote extra effort. Third is, a participative budget is more likely to be achievable. So because it is from the lower level managers, so more likely the participative budget will be more achievable because it was developed with input from the people responsible for achieving it. So since sa ila man nagikan, so they know well how to achieve those budget. So these are the benefits. Now let's go to the cons or the disadvantages of the participative budget. So one limitation is called the budgetary slack. So the budgetary slack is the practice of underestimating the revenues and overestimating costs to make the overall budget profit more achievable. So siguro kay mahadlok sila nga dili ma-achieve ang budget. So it perhaps mahadlok sila nga it will cost their job or promotion. So the management or the lower level employees and management tends to underestimate the revenues. Okay, so for example, in the sales department, So para ma-achieve dayon ang quota, so more likely they will underestimate the sales or the planned sales. And for those nga they are evaluated through profits, so they will try to overestimate cost or expenses so that in the actual results, it will appear more profitable than the planned budget. Second, second limitation is the incorporation of the corporate strategic plans into budget can be more difficult. Okay, so kay iya-iyahay man. So of course, each department has their own goals, but the corporation's goals must be prioritized over the different departmental budgets or departmental goals. So it poses a problem if we have the participative budget tapos not incorporate the strategic plans. Okay, so there should be a compromise. And of course, we will give more priority or we will give more value towards achieving the overall strategic plans or the corporation's goals over the different departments' goals. Participative budget is more time consuming kay tanan man imong istoryahon. Okay, so it is more time consuming than authoritative budget. So kung gadali ka, so it's although dagay na yung mga benefits of participative budget, but if time is of the essence, so dili participative budget ang imong himuon nga budget. So it takes time because you need to negotiate with the different lower level managers and employees. So next, we have the authoritative budget development. So what are the benefits if we use the second method? So first, the authoritative budget process gives the senior management a better control over the decision-making process than participative budget. So of course, it's very easy to incorporate the strategic plans into the budget if ang senior management lang ang maghimo sa budget. Second, the authoritative budgeting places more emphasis on the achievement of the strategic plans developed by the top management. So again, we give more value to the strategic plans. So it is more likely to be achieved if we use the authoritative budgeting. Third, authoritative budget development can be done rapidly. So and with greater flexibility than participative budgeting because it eliminates the need to meet with lower level managers to negotiate their budget. So it can be done faster and more flexible than participative budgeting. And budgetary slack is not a problem in the authoritative budget development. So it will give more motivation to the employees kay ang giset nga budget or ang giset for example nga quota is very challenging. Limitations. So first limitation is that the lower level managers and employees will have less commitment to the budget and be less accepting of it. So kay top management ra may naghimo and walay input gikan sa ila, so it will lessen their commitment towards achieving the budget and of course less acceptance. Second, authoritative budget is used to issue or dictate others. So the people are likely to resent being given orders. So a moral problem may result among the employees. So another limitation of the authoritative budget, the objectives may not be practical or possible to achieve because it does not take into account the existing limitations that senior management might not be aware of. So because they don't have they have little knowledge about their day-to-day operations. So perhaps they can set objectives nga aside sa very challenging, it can be probably impossible to achieve because wala na take into account the different problems that the lower level managers face each day. Fourth, limitation. So kay si senior management raman ang naghimo, there would be a less communication between the senior management and the lower level management. Okay, so now for the last type of budget development. So we have the consultative budget development. So first benefit, so since senior management makes the final decisions without any negotiation, so the management has more control over the process. So as a result, so the consultative budget will not have a budgetary slack. So budgetary slack is not a problem also in the consultative budget development. Second benefit, so the amount of time required to develop a consultative budget is less than the time required for participative budget. So, so of course, mas paspas ang authoritative budget, then followed by the consultative budget. So, ang may tabo raman sa consultative budget, you just ask input from the lower level managers, and then at the end, you will decide whether what to accept and what not to accept in the or to include in the budget. Third benefit, so if the lower level managers see the input they provided into the final budget, so kung ang ilang input na-appeal sa final budget, so they may be nearly as accepting and committed to the budget as they would have had as they would have been had it been developed participatively. So there is more commitment from the lower level managers because their input are being asked, especially pag nabutang pag yun sa final budget. Limitations of the consultative budget. So the amount of time required to develop a consultative budget is greater than the time required for authoritative budget. So of course, 'di ba? Mas paspas sa authoritative kaysa sa consultative because in the authoritative, you don't ask input from anyone. Second, if lower level managers feel their input has been disregarded, so if they think that their input is not accepted or ignored, so they can be even more resentful if they had never been asked to provide input in the first place. So mas more resentful to nga mga tao or managers kung gipangutana sila tapos wala pa gyud gi-incorporate sa budget. So mas maayo pag wa sila gipangutana, mas dili pa na siya resentful or dili pa masakit, di ba? So to ask for input and then not use is dismissive. So those lower level managers whose input has been ignored could probably not expected to provide much input into future budget development process. So they will be discouraged to give an accurate picture or the accurate input into the future budgeting process. So who should participate in the budgeting process? So an effective budgeting process usually combines various approaches. So bottom up, top down, and negotiation. So of course, it could be, you can use any of those types of budgeting process. Depende na siya sa organization. So which type of budgeting development method will really suit your operation or your organization. Either senior management or a budget committee made up of managers provide the guidelines based on their strategic plans, assumptions about the economy, and other relevant factors. Department and division heads prepare initial budgets based on those guidelines and send them to senior management for compilation into the initial consolidated budget and for review. So all those initial budgets are consolidated and it will be reviewed by the top management. So review and then negotiate until the final revision is finalized. So budget development process. So these are the general process. So which means that any business can uh, implement this process. So the first budget development process is to develop a guidelines. Okay, so there should be a budget guidelines, and it should be communicated towards the different managers and employees. Second step or second process is to initial the budget proposals are prepared by responsibility centers. So ano yung mga responsibility centers? These are the different departments or offices inside the organization or perhaps a different business or income generating center. So they are asked to prepare for a budget proposal. Third, there should be a negotiation and then a review on the budget proposal and then finally approval of those proposals. So fourth, if there are revisions, so it can be done. Number five, so there should be at the end of the year perhaps, there should be a variance analysis. Okay, so understanding which of these variants are significant enough to to be able to use to revise the upcoming mga profit plans. So perhaps nag-increase ang mga pamilitonon, ang mga raw materials. That's why they need also to revise their budget for the coming years. Or perhaps there's a pandemic, so that is why they can uh, anymore stick to the usual sales assumption. So the various reports are needed so that they can have a better budget for the coming years. Okay, so and that ends our first online meeting session. Now, if you have questions and queries, so don't hesitate to use the chat box or perhaps you can use your mic. Okay, do you have some questions or clarifications? Okay, so I guess there's none. So